Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Dr. George Gonzalez with the Hologram Podcast, and I'm here with Dr. Noah Moos. Hello, Dr. Noah. How are you doing today?
Hey, George. How's it going, man?
Doing great. I'm so excited to have you with us. Dr. Noah is the 2019 Doctor of the Year for Quantum Neurology. He's had some tremendous presentations this last homecoming 2020. He told us all about oxygen everywhere except in our body. Why don't you tell us about it, Noah, and tell people how, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah. So, really what we, when we were, when we start working with patients, one of the first things that I always see in a lot of people who have a lot of chronic conditions is basically a lack of oxygen in the body. And that's usually a lot of times because of a lack of delivery or a lack of the body's ability to access it because it's in our environment. And so we should have the ability to utilize it. But a lot of people have trouble with like the transport and delivery of oxygen. And so their bodies aren't getting the oxygen they actually need to heal. And so before we go looking at like all these kind of more advanced like testing and procedures and things we can do, a lot of times what we actually need to do is restore the oxygen component to the body, because really oxygen is needed as it's a fuel. And so if we don't have oxygen, we can't process carbohydrates, fats, those kind of things like that. So it becomes really important for our body as a way to generate energy. And so if we don't have oxygen, we don't generate energy. So figuring out and being able to identify that becomes kind of paramount important to helping all kinds of people recover from pretty much anything. So.
No, I was just thinking of it's kind of like telling a fish he's dehydrated.
Yeah.
Here we are, we're swimming in this oxygen rich environment, and yet our tissue, our body is not able to bring that into the cell. What kind of limitations cause that kind of thing, aside from the physicality of not breathing enough air into the body?
So one of the biggest things that we see is in most people is anemia, and then also there's like kind of a subclinical anemia that a lot of people are dealing with. And so anemia, if you're anemic, you basically don't have either enough red blood cells or enough hemoglobin to actually transport the oxygen to the tissue. So basically the thing that drives the oxygen around to where it needs to go doesn't exist. So you may be breathing it from the air, but you're not able to deliver it into the tissues. And then the other thing you see is vascular resistance or tension at the capillaries, where the capillaries, because of chronic inflammation, isn't allowing oxygen to actually, it may be getting there, but there's so much inflammation and tension around the artery or around the arterial capillaries that you're actually not able to dissolve the oxygen into the tissue. So those are the two main things that we see. And I think James Sheen, he talked about, the arterial venous balance at homecoming as well. So I think it's interesting. Like I always think it's interesting when people, like two presenters are basically covering like similar types of things, or they're seeing different types of things. For me, it was talking about, like big part of it being oxygen. And then we were talking about the arterial capillaries and how we work on resetting those. And then James gave a great presentation as well on kind of that arterial venous balance, which is super important for oxygen to actually perfuse into the tissues as well.
It would be pretty profound if we had planned it.
I know, right?
So it was actually amazing the no coincidental thing going on there where it was so complimentary what you were speaking about, and then seeing the shifts going on. So I myself have been not as strong in the area of the blood work and finding out all these things. And you have a new course that you've put together to explain these kind of things. Let's talk about that a little bit. As a professional that uses the blood work analysis, what benefit is there to checking that for the doctor that may not be using that?
So for me, I like to look at blood work as it gives me, when we kind of look at it, it gives me this big kind of overarching, look at what's going on with the body. And when you start to really, and one of the things that I really like to do is when you start to like understand physiologically, and I think this is what happens in a lot of times when people teach blood chemistry, is they don't really teach the physiology about what's going on with each marker. They basically, it's almost like a cookbook, right? Where it's like, if you see this, then do this. If you see this, then do this, right? And what we wanted to do is we wanted to take and we wanted to explain, like, when you see this is actually what's happening in the body, and this is why you would want to correct it. And then when you correct it, this is what you can expect to see. So instead of like creating this, this basically, because a lot of the blood chemistry is taught by people selling supplements, right? And so they want to give you this protocol so you can like, basically do this matching to like, okay, when I see this, I give XYZ product. When I give this, I give XYZ product. But the magic really starts to happen when you can understand, like, when you see this, like, what's actually going on in the body, like what is the breakdown process that's happening, because that can backdoor into other markers. And then when you start to understand all the interplay with this together, then you can really get a better idea physiologically on what you're trying to restore with your patients, versus just kind of like doing this shotgun approach where you're like, okay, well, I know they've got this, and XYZ product goes with that, and XYZ product goes with this. I like to try to like keep it as simple as possible and as concentrated as possible for our patients. And then also creating hierarchies of things that we need to address, because you're not going to, Rome's not rebuilt in a day. If you're doing like, blood work and nutrition, it takes 60 to 120 days to make new cells. So, we get this whole process of laying out like the roadmap with the patient, where we can say, okay, we've got this needs to be addressed. And then and when you know physiologically what's going on, the expectation that you can deliver to your patient to say, hey, this is what I expect to happen. These are some of the things that might happen along the way. And it really becomes understanding how the physiology works. And that's what I really want. That's what I spent a lot of time, Natalie and I spent a lot of time trying to like, to really like put together, is more of a physiologic based blood chemistry class versus like just we're trying to sell product, right? And because I think that's what happens, there's a lot of great blood chemistry courses and they give a lot of like good information, but sometimes it's more like product specific versus like just information specific. And me, I always want to know how things work. And so that was what we wanted to set out to do, is really explain the physiology and the underlying issues that are going on with each of these different markers and the different patterns and all those kind of things.
Absolutely valuable information, and I'm so excited to be able to share what you're sharing with everybody out there learning quantum neurology and beyond. Let's visit your website here real quick. Here's the. Do you see my screen there?
Yep.
Okay, why don't you tell us, this is your landing page.
Yeah.
And it's including a quantum neurology discount, so follow the links below. But why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so so we just started, the first thing that we started with, just to kind of put this together to go along for the people who kind of watched our presentation. And really, like for me, this is the first thing that I start with on anything. So if somebody's new to this, you're going to get so like, this is I will give you a little thing. This is my secret sauce. Like understanding this, I feel like I actually, I built my entire practice. I can tell you my second patient ever that ended up being this entire network of where I'm at right now was because I knew how to do this. And so I can say like 80% of my practice funnels out of this one patient. And it was actually being able to fix this. And so I think really understanding this becomes super, super important, because you're going to see this in so many people when you start to like learn the functional values and the physiologic ranges. So one of the things that we did when we took our values are based on a few things. They're based on all-cause mortality. And so basically what we want is they have a disease range, but when you look at research, there's research on all these blood values that will actually show a reduction in all-cause mortality. And so that's the first thing that we look at is we look at basic physiology, right? Like what would you want physiologically from there? But then we looked at research into all-cause mortality. So it's basically like if you can get these, these blood markers into this range, your chances of like dying from anything goes down. Now it's not, not a guarantee. It's not like a preventative or anything like that. But it's one of these things that when you look at healthy people and longevity, they have a tendency for their markers to hang in these ranges. So what we're going to continue to do is build out like all these different courses so you can then put them all together and they all build on each other. You see, we started with the CBC, but you can't do the CBC without like a bunch of other markers too. So we've got a bunch of those included in there. And then we also took this off, like, so our kind of three things: physiology, all-cause mortality, and then our own clinical experience, right? Like when we're working with athletes, our athletes that are kicking butt and taking names, when we look at their blood work, what does it look like? And then we're like, okay, this is where we see it. And then when people are struggling or not doing as well, what does their blood work look like? It's in this range here too. So that's kind of how we did it. Physiology, all-cause mortality, and then clinical experience is how we put this whole thing together. And so that's kind of what we've kind of tried to do, to have a little bit of a differentiation, and how we do it is based off of those three things.
I love it because for those people that don't know, the values that are the ranges in each one of these labs is based on sick people in that local area.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, is that correct, Noah?
Yeah. So they're based off of, they take a standard that's kind of set, and then they go 2 standard deviations from this median adjusted norm. And so you have to be 2 standard deviations from kind of this adjusted marker based on all the tests that they run. And each lab is actually, each lab determines their own value. And so I've been doing this for about 12 years now. And hemoglobin, which is the first marker that I ever look at on any single lab report, it's the first thing I ever go to, is I've watched it go from 12.5 to 12 to 11.5 in 12 years. So ever since I started learning blood chemistry and looking at just, my parents, mine, anybody's, people who'd give me their blood work to take a look at, right? When we first started looking at blood work, the hemoglobin marker was 12.5. Now it's 11.5. And I mean, and you'll see as you go through this course, some of our marker is almost 1 to 2 points higher than that. And so you're seeing all these people, when they come outside of that first standard deviation or outside of this functional range, and they're into this other range, but they're not like quite in that disease range yet. That's where all the symptoms happen. And those are the people that walk into your practice all the time. And they're like, I feel terrible, but my doctor says nothing's wrong with me. I'm healthy. They said I'm just stressed. I need some anxiety medication. Like, that's what they get diagnosed as. They get diagnosed as the crazies, and the people that are like, doing it for attention or all these different things. And then you just fix this like one value, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I actually feel good. I can like keep up with my day. I have better mood, all these kind of things. So it becomes such a valuable thing for me. And it's just, like I said, it's my secret sauce. Like we're giving it away. So.
Well, I appreciate it. Being a content creator and developer and trainer, I appreciate it as a student wanting to learn these kind of concepts, especially the secret sauce side of it. So yeah. I really appreciate it. And, we have a lot in common through quantum neurology and through all the work that we've been doing together through that. Why don't you let some people know about quantum neurology a little bit and what experiences you've had with it so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer. I mean, there's nothing that I found that works like as quickly, as effectively to basically like kind of look at the entire terrain of the body from the whole like neurologic standpoint, from like looking at the neuromuscular component to looking at to the sensory integration side of it and brain balance. And I think, with like the cranial nerve work and the sensory work that you guys do and how that affects everything from like chronic pain, chronic inflammation, musculoskeletal issues, like everything dials back into being able to understand this. And when you when you look at this and you see that so many of these problems are they're coming from, like the top down, and being able to assess all of these areas of like imbalance in the body, that a lot of people might not be getting the results they want, and it's because it's coming from somewhere completely different, or it's an imbalance in some like process in the body that's not that's not linked up or connected, and the body just needs to make that integration. And then once you make that integration, it's just like the lights turn back on, and things start to work. People start to recover, movements that like people couldn't do before start to happen. We start to see the ability to help people recover from all kinds of chronic pain, chronic inflammation, movement disorders, all kinds of different things. Once the body starts to get networked and connected, everything starts to work just so well. It's such a powerful technique, and it's super easy. The way that you've taught it is so unintimidating, so easy to learn, that people can come in, like take the, like start working the courses online, jump into a seminar, and you can start to apply this in a very, very basic manner, and start to see amazing results from like day one when you start it.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And we've been doing this for 20 years now. And
Yeah.
we started with VHS.
That's impressive.
I had the dual VHS burner, and one master copy, and just kept on making videos and getting the concepts out there. Started with the frozen shoulder, one of your favorite techniques, right?
That's worth every bit that I paid for the entire course. So that's that's another secret sauce. That's the quantum neurology secret sauce.
Well, I have an extensive martial art background, and just that mechanics understanding, and being able to apply those physics on the body. Once you learn how to do it, it seems very natural, because it's like, oh, I want this body part to move this way. I'm going to assist it in that mechanics, and it becomes very natural once you understand the principles of the body and the movement, and what levers are supposed to be firing, when they're supposed to be firing, as opposed to, I just move this way.
If you have overhead, if any of the doctors watching this have overhead athletes, if you're a swimmer, tennis player, baseball player, football player, anything that like does overhead athletics, game changer. Like seriously, like all of my overhead athletes will not leave my office unless we do the shoulder work on them. But that's their finisher. They're like, okay, I don't care if I like sprained an ankle or I hurt my knee. They're like, you gotta do the shoulder before we leave. And so it's a game changer for overhead athletes and people that just having trouble getting arms up over the head. It's amazing.
I love it. Thank you so much. And of course, we have all sorts of other training as well. Visit us at quantumneurology.com. We have online training and interactive online training. We teach on Thursdays, and it's a live presentation with a slide presentation, and then we have question and answer, and we wrap that up in 2 hours. So it's not an intimidating amount of time. The information is given in bite-sized pieces, so you can apply it during the week. And then if you have questions, you bring them the next week, and we go over the new advanced training. So we've had a lot of success with that training environment. And it's similar to the Homecoming 2020, which I thought went off really well, considering, the newness of this kind of a, I don't know how much you caught, but it was a great event.
Yeah. I mean, it always is. And yeah, I think this year, like, it's like, we're all learning how to learn in a different environment, but man, y'all did a great job with it. So.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And even though we couldn't physically be together, it was great having that environment to get together on.
Yes.
And
sure.
So when is your conference again? And let me bring this up on the screen again, just so people can see it. So you're doing the this is a course that's already recorded. It's online.
Yep.
And the first part is the CBC. This is part one, red
Yes.
blood cell and anemia. For $195 is an amazing price. And there's a discount for the Quantum Neurology code in the links below. We thank you so much for that, for sharing that with our community. And why don't you give us an overview? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of walk. What we do with this course is we start with just kind of like the introduction on, like, and I kind of laid out a little bit of the introduction already, like why we want to do this. You're gonna see like the types of people and like the conditions that masquerade from this in your blood, in people's blood work. So you'll quickly be able to like identify the people that you need to maybe like start to like order this out. And the nice thing is if doctors aren't used to doing blood work or anything like that, you can set up, there's a couple like great labs that are like doctor-based labs that you can set up with. Avixia Diagnostics is who we use. And then Professional Co-op is another one that we used to use, but they're super great. They've got contracts with like LabCorp, so you can go in. Usually a CBC is going to cost, it's somewhere, 15 to 30 bucks, depending on, like what the lab like negotiated price is, draw fees, all that kind of stuff. So for like $30, you can really get like, a ton of information. You don't need to have these like $300, $400, $500 like panels to start with. If you're not, used to doing it, you can really just start here. And I've actually debated a lot, just running that as part of my new patient protocol, just having like a CBC included in the new patient price, just as like a little screening mechanism to say, okay, like, is there something? Because basically what you'll see is in the CBC, you're going to get the red blood cells and the white blood cells. So you're going to basically be able to figure out really quickly if they have an oxygen issue or some type of oxygen delivery issue, or if they have an immune issue. And we'll get the white blood cell CBC has to be its whole other thing, because we did 5.5 hours on anemia for this one. And so we'll do another one for part 2 with the white blood cells. But this test is super, super simple. So, the doctor that has never done blood work, you could start here and you could just start fixing this on people and you would get amazing results. Like, I promise you, like a lot of, I guess I can't promise anything, but I will say strongly, I strongly believe that you will start to make enormous changes in people if you learn how to interpret the CBC and all of that. And so what we're going to talk about, initially is like how to spot it. So when you like an in-depth look at the red blood cell, the hemoglobin, the hematocrit, what those numbers are, what they mean, and then and when you start to see them in certain ranges, what to expect. And so we'll also go into the physiology of how like your body synthesizes hemoglobin and heme, how your body makes red blood cells. It's going to be maybe a review from physiology. Maybe it's something that was skipped over, because I know like when I first kind of went back to like start learning this really in depthly is, we might have had a brief touch, but somebody's like, oh, you'll never need to know that. But I think one of the things, like when I started to study heme synthesis, like it's crazy. Like there's so much involved in like what heme does in the body other than just like make hemoglobin. Like it affects your thyroid, it affects your detoxification enzymes in the liver. Like if you don't have enough heme in the body, you're going to have thyroid issues. You're going to have you're going to have liver issues. You're going to have toxicity issues. So before people go like detoxing the whole body and doing like trying to force detoxification, like if you have this issue and if you don't have enough hemoglobin or enough heme in the body and you start detoxing the body, you're going to just create a storm in the body. So for me, it's like understanding these kind of things that happen and why they happen is really important, because we could put somebody on a detoxification program, but if they don't have enough heme to help everything work right, you're going to really put that person in a compromising situation. And that may be the person that, like whenever you do a cleanse or something yearly with your whole office and people get really sick or like, don't really feel good or don't have the response that you should, it may be because they don't have the raw materials for their body to actually detoxify correctly. And you can actually see that by looking at hemoglobin. And so I thought that was, one of those like really cool things that we that we found. And then like heme and it's necessity for thyroid function. So if you're trying to like do all this advanced crazy thyroid stuff and the person's like doesn't have enough hemoglobin, like you're wasting your time. So it's some of these advanced things that people get into. It's kind of like quantum neurology, right? Like, what do you always say, George? Don't skip the basics, like, right? Like you say that all the time, where it's like the basics of quantum neurology are like the most powerful thing. Like whenever we have like, I've had a bunch of students come shadow us lately, and I tell everybody, I was like, you're gonna learn all this stuff like all the way out here, but your day is gonna be spent right here. You're gonna just spend the day all day just doing this here, and it's just those simple basic things are so powerful that if you can master those, then when something crazy goes in, you can jump over here or you can jump over here. But you got to make sure that you have the basics taken care of first before you can really dive into some more of these like advanced procedures. And that's what we want to share is just from like that, like hemoglobin, right? Like I can tell you how well you're detoxifying. I can tell you if you've got like, if you're going to be set up to have thyroid problems. And if we don't fix that, we're really, pushing a boulder uphill.
Well, I love that you base your values on healthy individuals. That to me, it's like that's the real target we should all be shooting for, not this sick range. Stay in the middle of the sick range, and I think that's so important. Also, the concept of understanding the why instead of take a product XYZ for this situation. Because as we all know, nothing is 100% 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's good to understand the why behind something so that you have a choice between whether it's products or other suggestions that you may have for these things.
Because when something doesn't work, like, there's a lot of times, like 8 out of 10 times, like you're going to do this like process, you'll do like a process and it'll work. But then when it doesn't, you're like, okay, like, we got to like kind of go circle back and look at this, like, why isn't this happening? And we explain like some of the weirdness, right? Like that we see where it's like, if you do this and this doesn't help, likely you need to look at this. It's like, it's kind of like a stepwise process. Like if this, 8 out of 10 times, you're going to like see this, you're going to do this, and it is going to be an easy response. But like 2 out of 10 times, it's not going to work. And then this is the areas you need to go when you start to see that happen. So we try to lay out, like those basics, right? Like you're like, okay, if you see this, do this. If this doesn't work, then we might need to go out to, XYZ and look at that. So, and that's when you start to understand the physiology. You can start to say, okay, well, where else could we be stuck at? So,
right. Now, do you associate any of this to kinesiology or any sort of muscle testing, or is it straight?
So I always use lab work first as like my screen, right? Like to get an idea on like what's going to go on, and then I like to go through and like test the body to kind of see what the physical projection of this internal environment looks like. So, we know like a lot of, for like, if you're looking at anemia, you can look at like the oxygen dependent muscles. You can also, for quantum neurology, S1 and the vagus nerve are going to be, those are two ones that actually correlate really well with people who have anemia and subclinical anemia. So if you have that person who every time they come in, S1 isn't working, and then you have to chronically treat like, cranial nerve like 9 and 10 in that area where, like your vagus nerve and glossopharyngeal, like all those, hypoglossal, like those kind of areas. Like if you're everything that kind of innervates that area, if you're having trouble with with those, then you then there might be an anemia going on. So like, cranial nerve 10 and S1 really correlate a lot with subclinical anemia, because those are kind of the parasympathetic muscles. And if your body doesn't have enough oxygen, it's always going to be in kind of a chronic state of like sympathetic dominance. And so in order to turn off that sympathetic activation and get into that deep kind of parasympathetic, like vagal tone, you've got to actually get the body the oxygen it needs so the body can start to calm down.
Very exciting, very exciting. I'm looking forward to watching it myself and sharing my thoughts on it with everyone. I'm excited to learn this on a deeper level from somebody I trust in biochemistry and understanding these things, but also because, like you said, it's not coming from the product side of the equation. You're coming from the biochemistry side of the equation, what's going on, and then you could pick products that whichever you want. But of course, the one that works for that patient is the correct choice.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. I think that's very valuable skill and knowledge, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with as many people as possible and letting them know what you're doing. It's awesome, man.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think I think that it will be a good resource for a lot of the practitioners, and that's just what we wanted to do. We just wanted to create an area where we could share and help people learn and grow in their understanding. Just like, like you've created a great learning environment for us to all, like, kind of share and learn and grow in our understanding of how the nervous system works and all of that. So I think that's all of us practitioners have our areas of that we can excel in. And so I think when we all come together and share in a community, and that's what I love about what you've created with Quantum Neurology, is it really is just a great community, and all the doctors are so, like, willing to share. I've learned so much amazing information in the just kind of being around, like, everybody who comes through and at homecoming and all of that. Like, it's just such a giving community where it's just like, yeah, everybody's willing to, like, be open and share and really everybody wants everybody to grow like that. It's like that, really, that rising tides raise all ships is really the energy that hangs around, like, in the quantum neurology crowd, where everybody wants to see everybody else around them, like, level up and grow and expand. And because we have such a daunting task of trying to make sure that, like, we're healing all the people around us, and we need everybody working together to really kind of to expand and be able to help our whole society right now.
Absolutely. And you have other projects that you're working on as well. You have your nutrition project, and you also
Yeah.
have a podcast, and you practice full time, and somewhere in there you're married, and
Yeah.
so
and,
why
and occasionally I find time to sleep too.
so why don't you tell us a little bit about the other projects you have going, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we also, one of the things, obviously, like biochemistry, nutrition, those kind of things. Really, we started the Human Nutrition Project, which is our kind of sports performance line, based out of the fact that, like, my wife is a professional track and field athlete, and had a number of, like, health challenges, in college and in her early professional career, and really didn't get exposed to, a lot of, like, more of, like, the alternative medicine, like those kind of things, until, like, we started, dating and those kind of things, and really helped to kind of bring her career back from where it was pretty much, like, falling apart to, now she's still competing and training and like, going to make one more go for 2021 and kind of see how all of that goes. But what we did is we wanted to create healthier options for athletes. So when athletes, they go to, look at, like, a sports drink or a hydration protocol or, like, product, there was nothing on the market we could recommend to our patients. We're like, we had both, been athletes ourselves, and we work with a lot of athletes, and they'd be like, well, what do I need to do when I'm running my marathon? What should I be fueling with? And we're like, well, there's nothing really great, but I could maybe do this is better than, like, this. And so we just basically took it upon ourselves that we wanted to recreate that industry with, like, good, healthy, science-backed fueling, hydration, and other products that we're getting ready to launch, to kind of help some of these common problems we see with athletes, because we can't treat everybody, right? Like, but if we can get the information out there and we can help athletes identify, where they might be struggling, or be able to prevent some of these things before they become an actual issue. Like Natalie, right? Like, she didn't have any of this information, and it just led to just she basically had to go like, she was research. She was in research and all of that before, she went into clinical nutrition. And so, she was research everything and she couldn't find anything. And then when she started to finally kind of, find like this whole natural side of things, she got her master's degree and functional medicine and nutrition, and really now strives to help athletes like herself and everybody try to like restore health through this natural way, because she got put through the medical ringer and all those kind of things. And so we just want to try to help educate like athletes and people in general. So that's why we started the Human Nutrition Project, was really just as an education platform. And we wanted to present like products and things that were, like cleaner in nature, that athletes could actually feel good about fueling with, versus, fueling with, some of the other stuff that's always on the market. And so we just had to create it because it didn't exist. Somebody once told me, it's like, if you're not willing to do something about it, you can't complain about it. And so I would complain about all the stuff on the market, but then I was like, well, I'm not doing anything about it. So, so it was kind of a call to action for me. And so when I kind of had that call to action, I was like, okay, we got to do this. So we're just, slowly starting to put out a few products, kind of work through, like refining them, making them the best that they possibly can, and trying to help athletes just kind of overcome some of these common things that we deal with. So, since we can't see everybody, we can at least help somebody, or, try to help people a little bit in the areas when they can't get in to see us, or, we might be further away, or they might not have access to, coming down to Austin to work with us or something like that. So.
No, it's excellent. Great products. I was drinking your coffee all weekend.
Nice.
This last since homecoming, and love the hydration product. I think it's revolutionary. A non-sugar added concept that hydrates the body. And I forget the stat, but it's pretty impressive about the hydration ability of it.
ORS being comparable to 95% comparable to IV, or 95% comparable to IV in hydration studies.
That's very impressive. And having used the product personally and experienced the hydration changes when I was cramping up one time, it's pretty profound. Also, you have a podcast that you do, because you talk about your wife being an athlete, but you are also an athlete as well. And so you have a lot of experience with running and track and field and elite athletic performance. And you have this podcast. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so me and one of my friends, he's a professional ultramarathoner. He used to have the record for the fastest known time around Mount Rainier. So is it Mount Rainier? Yeah, the Wonderland Trail, and so it's 93 miles. So fastest known time around 93-mile loop. Me and him just went out and started running one day, and we just got in these awesome discussions where we would just go out trail running, through some of the trails in Austin. And I was like, and we just both were like, man, we should like record some of our conversations, because I think these are like some really good, just conversations. And he was always curious. He came from he was a Marine and got into running after the Marines and all of that. And it just became really interested in like health and wellness and biohacking and all these kind of things. So we just go and he'd bounce questions off. We'd ask him, and he's always researching all kinds of like optimal performance. He was in the tech world for a while. And so he's always thinking about like how to optimize like workflow, all these kind of things like that. So he's always bringing in all this like research and we just go and we run for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And we talk about all these things, and then we come back and we kind of outline whatever we talked about and try to like put it down. And so we're definitely gonna start. We kind of got this year, got things a little bit off track with everything that's been happening, but we're hoping to start bringing that back to where we can really start just diving into that. And really, it just looks at like human performance, and we're both endurance runners, so a lot of it is based around like endurance performance. But a lot of it is like, we did the podcast on cognitive performance, where we talked about like, one of the things that he brought to my attention was how to structure the day with these peaks, lulls, and like, or peaks, valleys, and rebounds. about how the brain works throughout the course of the day. And we did some HRV studies on it, and you could actually see these things. So I actually ended up shifting my day an hour one way to take advantage of like not having to see patients when I was in this little bit of a lull, and instead I'd take lunch like an hour later, and it actually helped create this better balance in my day. So we kind of just nerd out on like whatever like kind of comes to mind and all of that. So whatever, either podcast or intellectual topics, seminar that I've went to, something he's been reading, all those things. We just kind of dive into all kinds of things like performance, wellness, everything. So.
No, that's wonderful. I think that's great, and especially from the athletic perspective that you have, and advancing human performance perspective and endurance, and those are all high level concepts to be talking about it at the highest level is always exciting. Let's look at your offering one more time here for everybody, because I think it's really important for doctors out there, especially the ones that this isn't their normal routine, to learn about the CBC and looking at it from the healthy marker perspective as opposed to the sick marker perspective, and how to get somebody to that concept, and the strategies behind that. And so for $195, an incredible price, but with the QN code, coupon code,
We're giving the QN community $100 off. So.
Oh my goodness, $100 off. So it's $95. What a tremendous value. Thank you so much for doing that. And so for $100, everyone, you can learn all about the CBC and strategies of helping people with these issues. And, we'll have the website for you to check out, and of course the coupon code for you all to follow. Thank you so much for being with us, Noah, and thanks for being, Doctor of the Year last year, and the all the presentations you've given to Quantum Neurology. You always bring high level for everybody, and I really appreciate it.
It's an honor to be a part of the community, and I try to do my best. You've given me so much with Quantum Neurology and everything that you've taught me, and just being like an amazing mentor to me. It's the least I can do to try to bring the little bit of knowledge that I have to the table, and help help us all to raise the level of all the doctors. And I just love the community you've created, and it's like a family to me. That's why it says QN Family 2020 for the coupon code, is because it really does feel like a family to us. And I just want to do my best to serve all the doctors in our community, and try to try to help just bring the education level where I can, and with what I know, and with what I can help with, because I know so many people before have done it for me. So that's all I can do is continue to try to bring as much value to everybody around me as I can. So
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And to be continued. We always enjoy talking to you, and you always have some exciting new concepts for us. So until next time, how do people get a hold of you? If they want to be your patient, or if they want to check out your website?
Yeah. So for people who are interested with working with us from healthplusaustin.com is our website. People who are interested in the Human Nutrition Project or trying some of our products, thehumannutritionproject.com is where you can find that. And yeah, so feel free to reach out to us on any of those platforms, and we'll do our best to guide you in any way we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. There's Dr. George Gonzalez, quantumneurology.com. If you're looking for a doctor that practices neurological rehabilitation, you check out our doctor locator. If you are a doctor and you want to learn how to do neurological rehabilitation on your patient population, check out our training opportunities that we have. Amazing opportunities and training for doctors to be able to learn from home, 2 hours a week, and learn advanced neurological rehabilitation very quickly. And we look forward to seeing you all there. And thank you again, Dr. Noah. We'll see you soon.
All right, thanks.